This is highwithoutcoke and welcome to another pathofexile's video. This is going to be a full guide for my Shockwave Totem Hierophant build. I have been playing Shockwave Totem for roughly a month and it was an absolute blast. I did some mapping, farmed trophy ancestors, completed instant invitations and even killed some uber bosses. Shockwave Totem is easily one of the strongest builds I have ever played in pathofexile. So, if you haven't tried Shockwave Totem yet, I highly recommend that you give it a try. Before I go into more details, if you like what you are watching, please take a second to like my video and subscribe to my channel. Your support means a lot to me. Let's start with the pros and cons of this build. This build has around 56 million Guardian DPS and is an awesome uber boss killer. With the use of Astral Projector, the Nova spell is cast at the monster location, which results in decent clear speed. This build has multiple layers of defense, so you rarely die while mapping. The totem offers an overall safe gameplay because you can be mobile all the time. You just need to place a few totems and run around dodging enemies. As for the cons, the cost of this build is around 80 divine, so it can be expensive for some players. We don't have any evasion or spell suppression because our passive tree is mostly on the left side, and we don't use grace either. Lastly, you can't leech with totems, so you will need other forms of life recovery. So, how do we deal damage with this build? First, this build has 6 totems, dealing around 9 million Guardian DPS each. Second, we convert most of our physical damage into cold damage. So we can use things like Awaken Cold Penetration and Hatred Aura to further scale our damage. Spells scale very well with gem levels, so you want to get our Shockwave Totem to at least level 30. Mine is at level 31. This build has 98% crit chance without Flask and 560% crit multiplier. We also scale a lot of cast speed with Onslaught, Frenzy Charges, and Arcane Surge. This build has high maximum fire resistance and regen, so I can use Righteous Fire for the damage bonus. Besides Hatred, I also use other offensive auras such as Summon Skitter Bots to apply Shock and Zealotry to boost my damage. I use several defensive auras in this build. This build has around 40% block and 40% spell block with Tempest Shield. I have 25k of armor with Determination and Granite Flask. Other defensive auras I use are Purity of Fire and Vitality. These two auras also enable us to turn on Righteous Fire. This build can apply 20% sap, causing us to receive 20% less damage from sap enemies. This build has a 100% chance to avoid elemental ailments, so we can ignore chill and shock ground when mapping. These defensive layers allow us to have 66k of EHB, which you will see in my POB. This is my gear setup. The best weapon for this build is a +2 scepter. You can also use a +2 wand, but you will need much higher intelligence to equip it. Since I'm using leadership's price, using a wand is not ideal because I need to match both of my highest attributes to get the brittle conflux. For example, if your wand requires 230 intelligence, let's say this is your highest attribute, you will need to get either dexterity or strength to 230 as well. This will put a strain on your gears and you may have to give up some damage to get these attributes. Another downside is that you will not be able to use a lot of tattoos. As for other mods, look for spell damage, cast speed, crit multi, or double damage. I bought my shield for 15 divines. The most important mods are +1 totem and reservation efficiency. You can get +1 to physical spell skill gems if you want, but frenzy charges give more damage. It was also cheaper when I was putting together this build. I use Devouring Diadem as my helmet mainly because of the reservation efficiency and Eldritch Battery keystone. Eldritch Battery allows me to reserve all my mana and spend energy shield instead for skills. I use Skin of the Lords as my body armor. +2 mod is nice and Ancestral Bond keystone allows us to save a point on the passive tree. Diala's Malefaction with +2 to AoE gems corrupted implicit will give higher damage, but it's also much more expensive. Another thing I don't use DLR's malefaction is that coloring this body armor can be a real pain because you're trying to get all green and red sockets despite it being an energy shield body armor. These are the gloves I'm using. I use some mosquito bots to apply chill, so this mod, increased damage against chilled enemies, is good for this build. If you're struggling to get full physical damage conversion, you may need to replace this crafted mod with physical damage converted to cold instead. As for the boots, you must get at least 50% chance to avoid elemental ailments. This is so that you can achieve a 100% chance to avoid elemental ailments when you combine it with 30% from Astral Projector and another 20% from Passive Tree. This boot enchant does nothing for this build. I tried getting damage penetration enchant but to no avail, so eventually I gave up on it. Astral Projector is the mandatory item of this build. Without it, the clear feels mediocre, and it's especially annoying when you encounter fast-moving enemies or when you have a lot of bosses in the room. The other ring and the belt are mostly to cap my resistances and get the attributes needed, but it will be good if you can fit in some cast speed or damage mod. This is my Flask Setup. Bottle Fade if you want to reach 100% crit, Taste of Hate for more damage, and Romi's Concoction for block. Taste of Hate is also a great defensive flask because you get some physical mitigation. You don't need a perfect roll. I'm just using this because I got it as a reward from Trial of the Ancestors. This is my gem setup for Shockwave Totem. Aura setup. I tried to control my budget, so I use a level 3 Enlighten and combine it with reservation tattoos. But if you have the currency, you can get a level 4 Enlighten and use more damage tattoos. Zealotry is linked to Divine Blessing so that it doesn't have to reserve any mana. I cast it when fighting bosses. I put Steel Skin on my left click to activate it as often as possible. Summon Lightning Golem. Curse setup. I like having my curse linked to Arcanist Brand because I can cast Arcanist Brand on the ground beforehand and it will apply the curse on the boss once the fight starts. Movement skill. Val Haze for bosses. This is the order of my Ascendancy skills. Pursuit of Faith, Ritual of Awakening, Conviction of Power, and lastly Arcane Blessing. As for my passive tree, I took this Shield Mastery for 100% chance to avoid elemental ailments. This critical mastery is important because we want to cap our brittle and scorch effects against bosses. Cold Mastery for physical damage conversion. I use Militant Faith for Inner Conviction Keystone. This gives me a huge damage boost. Try to get one with increased effect of non-damaging ailments. As I said, it is very important for brittle and scorch effects. I got Physical Conversion mod on my Watcher's Eye. Coupled with Cold Mastery and Eldritch Implicit on my gloves, I can convert 99% of my physical damage into cold. I use a medium cluster jewel with Sleepless Sentries to gain onslaught when summoning a totem. There are 4 different tattoos used in this build. Warlord for +1 to strength skill jumps, Hatungo for reservation efficiency, Block for effect of non-curse auras, and lastly Tukohama Shaman for life regen. Matching 2 of my highest attributes became easier with these tattoos. Pantheon isn't that important for this build, but just in case anyone wants to know, I'm using Soul of Lunaries and Soul of Tukohama. Same setup even for Uber bosses. This build is good for the following farming strategies. Not recommended for no-hit Sanctum though because this build doesn't apply freeze, which is a major defense for running no-hit Sanctum. Other than this build can do most of the contents within pathofexile. Alright, that's it for today's video. If you enjoy my content, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you and see you next time.